What are some of the early warning signs that men often ignore when it comes to their mental health?
I think isolation. A lot of guys will generally isolate because they're trying to internalize the issue. They also trying to kind of find where they are, and it's such a difficult place to be in because you don't have the right or you don't have the wrong answer. So generally they'll isolate themselves away from, the better word, their tribe or their family or their loved ones, and will start to internalize the issue. And the isolation causes them to really detach themselves away from what they're trying to fix because they're kind of internalizing the problem inside and without finding an answer. However, you'll find like their demeanor changes a lot. Their characteristics, their normal characteristics will change.
This is probably the most important question we're going to ask throughout this series. How can men start a conversation about what they're going through, especially if they don't know how to put it into words?
I think one has to really look at the fact that through generations, irrespective of age group, social demographic, religious demographic or whatever, is that men have never been given a safe space. They kind of have been placed in a position where they are expected to be in a position of cannot have fault, cannot show weakness. Okay. Irrespective of how you look at it, going back through whatever age period and stuff, that is the hardest part for a man, is to actually be able to own it and actually be able to say, I actually have a problem. Because men have been ostracized, judged, criticized for weakness. So for a man to actually say that he has the ability, that he actually has a weakness, he has a problem, he doesn't have the place to speak. And that's where the greatest failure for men has actually become the fact that they don't have a place to talk in a safe space. Whereas men don't have the safe environment because of the fact that they feel they're going to be criticized and judged. And they kind of are distracted versus actually dealing with the problem. Mental health has nothing to do with gender. Mental health has nothing to do with social economic status, has nothing to do with religious status. Okay? Mental health is a disease. It's been noted as a disease by the World Health Organization. Okay? So there's no discrimination between who has and who hasn't. It's an actual world epidemic. Very few men that can say, listen, I want to hear your problem. What are you going through? Without, hey, let's go for a beer, let's go watch the rugby, let's go have a bra. Okay, that's not resolving the problem. That's kind of just avoiding the problem. It's kind of just putting a plaster, but you've got a massive gaping wound. Okay, whereas a person that has the emotional investment, okay, to say, listen, I want to hear what you're going through. Why are you going through? How is it making you actually feel? That is providing the safe space. That doesn't provide emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how you actually deal with an emotional situation. And the problem is we brought up in a culture where we don't have that ability. And unfortunately, the only time a person learns about emotional intelligence is during a failure. Unfortunately, with men, they only realize the emotional aspect of something once they've gone through the trauma. But by that stage, it's too far gone to a point that it's actually caused so much more damage and it's harder to come back from. Okay? And that's where, unfortunately, men turn to, unfortunately, self-harm or, unfortunately, suicide as an ultimate resource.
But where is a person's mental mind by the time they have tried to commit suicide? Tried and failed, tried and succeeded. How far down that rabbit hole is that person? What is he thinking? Where is his head at? How do they come back from that?
I would say in my experience, a person has got to the point of no return. There is no return. Not to say they haven't tried everything, okay? Because maybe had they reached out to that friend, or had they spoken to a mental health practitioner, being a professional, being a psychologist or a psychiatrist, okay, or even a pastor or a trauma counselor, I don't think some of them, for the people that I've experienced that have committed suicide, have used those resources So they got to a point of no return. And when they got to the point of no return, it's so painful, the only way out is to kind of just take themselves out. Okay? And it's hard because it's sad because there were always so many more options, but maybe they had not explored the options. So for a person to be in that state of suicide, and I have literally talked people off bridges or off buildings and stuff, they're at a point of no return. Okay, they're literally hanging on by a cotton thread. Okay, and sometimes it's just they actually just want to be heard. The fact that they are heard makes the difference to them not committing suicide versus have committed suicide. You know, so it's like literally on a scalpel's blade. That's how sharp of an edge it is.
If you could give every man one mental fitness habit to build daily, what would it be and why?
Self-reflection or retro-introspection, if you want to use it as a technical term. Okay, because irrespective, like I said, mental health has nothing to do with demographic, racial, cultural, religious. It's prolific across any. It's a disease, and a disease doesn't specify its choice. Okay, one has to look at what one feels as one is failing at. Okay, somebody once wisely said, be the better version of what you were the day before. Okay, and sometimes that means that you actually need to have a hard look at yourself, actually look at yourself internally, not the aesthetics, not how many times I've gone to gym this week, or how many CrossFit sessions I've done, or how many cycles I've done, or how often I've surfed. Okay, it's a matter of looking at yourself and saying, listen, what did I not do today that I should have done better? Okay, how can I be better? What can I do to better? Not because I want to better the world, I want to better myself, because that shows self-respect, that shows self-love. And unfortunately with mental health, people have removed the self-love aspect, and that's why people suffer from mental health, is because they've actually forgotten how to love themselves. You know, somebody once asked, who's the most important person in your life?